So this is the second attempt at recording a video about the new Mortal Kombat 2 movie trailer. Basically, I did a reaction, which ended up being recording for about 40 to 50 minutes. I started editing it, and I just didn't care for it, because there aren't any really big moments in it. There's not really anything to stand out for the reaction. I just kind of rambled as I do. So I decided to go back, completely start over, and just kind of remake those same observations, just without quite so much rambling. So we open with Johnny at this fan convention, got some DC stuff here. This obviously leads into the scene where he's recruited by Raiden and Sonya, presumably it's the bar scene, then this, and then that scene, and a Denia flashback perhaps somewhere amongst all that. Here we've got some of Johnny's sunglasses. Already been teased that Johnny has his own sunglasses brand through the fake IMDb page for Johnny. So then we have these three DVDs of Uncaged Fury, the poster we've already seen, Citizen Cage, which is a new one we haven't seen before, and that's what this big image of Johnny is. And they've clearly done a lot of work to make him look younger. It looks a little uncanny, but at the very least it gets the idea across that this is Johnny from years ago, Johnny in his prime. I think maybe they could have done a bit more work on his chest, something about it where it still looks a bit more like the older Johnny. Maybe I'm crazy, that's just how it looks to me. And then we have Quantum Commando. This is a brand new one that we hadn't heard about before. So when I did my video about all of the Johnny Cage movies and TV shows and whatnot from across all the continuities, we hadn't heard of this before. The document I made to go along with that video, I have updated it. I put what little information we have in that. Hopefully we'll get to see more. I really hope they do release these posters, independently on Twitter or something. I mean, again, I said it before, that'd be cool if they would sell them, but at least put them out online in high quality so we can get a better idea of what these films are about, Next we have this shot of what is evidently the throne room in Edenia. I personally don't really care for the aesthetic here. It looks like something out of Thor, or maybe like a Lord of the Rings film with the elves. It doesn't quite feel right to Edenia for me, although I don't know what I would do differently personally. It's not necessarily a problem, it's just this isn't the way I would approach it. But the most substantial thing is that we have Jared with Katana here. They generally don't go into too much detail in any MK media really, whether Katana was around or not. The Malibu comics had her be a young woman. In the games it's generally assumed she was a baby at the time, or at least young enough to not remember any of it, so that Shao Kahn can easily manipulate her. But sometimes memory manipulation was necessary. If we're going to depict it, it makes sense to have her be old enough to remember, whether she has her memories erased or not, because it makes it more dramatic, It's not just Sindel watching her husband die, it's this child watching her father die, and we will be seeing how he dies a bit later in the trailer. And then we have Bihan in the Netherrealm after he was killed by Scorpion. Clearly it's the Netherrealm because everything is orange, whereas the place where he died was all blue because of the ice. So it makes for a neat contrast with that. He looks more burnt here. Maybe it's just the lighting, but he looks more blackened. And I wonder if that's going to be the explanation for why Noob Saibot has black skin. Because, there's different explanations. It can be oil, it can be shadow. But even though Bihan's death was by immolation, I'm pretty sure since it was established that he died in the MK2 prequel comic in 1993, I don't believe we've ever actually had a firm version where he's black because he's burned, and that looks to be what they're attempting to do here. This is presumably part of a resurrection scene to set him up. It could be a flashback, but I could also see it being an early scene, perhaps when we are introduced to Quan Chi. So then we have this scene. I'm pretty sure that's Sindel. It's a little hard to tell from the angle and the lighting, but I don't think it's Bihan, because his arms are not exposed and he's all horrifically burnt. I'm pretty sure this is just when Sindel is resurrected. I'm pretty sure Quan Chi's wearing a cloak when we see him later on, so this will be Quan Chi doing the resurrection of Sindel, which, I prefer for him to stick to the earlier stuff, but I didn't expect it to be Shang Tsung doing it, since, Shang Tsung doesn't really do anything in the first film. I don't expect him to do a whole lot in this one, although he is going to be having at least one fight, so maybe that was the thought process, is Quan Chi can do this because Shang Tsung has his own thing going on. And then we have this funny moment where they just re-show the same stuff they showed in the first trailer. And they do this a couple times. Clearly, the entire marketing campaign was planned out in a certain way, where they would ramp up to the release in October. Then they suddenly, very abruptly delayed it by, 7 months? All that's gone out the window because, we've already shown some stuff. We can't take that back. So now all they can do is either show a bunch more stuff and spoil everything, or just kind of rehash a bunch of things, stretch this out a bit. This trailer feels very much like the filler trailer in between the proper reveal trailer and then the final, the film is coming soon or the film is out now trailer that you would expect to show around April or May. And this is a sequence I spent quite a bit of time trying to dissect. It's a weird, very choppy sequence here. So we have Kitana and Johnny about to face off, and then suddenly Kitana is facing away from Johnny and she's got the mask on, and then messing around with the fan, she kicks one. Johnny dodges it, and then he reacts like, whoa, why, whoa, that's crazy. And then it cuts back and the mask, she's further away, the mask is gone, but she's still holding one fan. So she's clearly going to throw the fan at multiple times. She's going to throw it, because as this shot goes on, after Johnny has his thing reacting, and then we get this MCU nanomachines mask thing, which looks terrible. I mean, that just looks awful. It looks like if someone just got a screenshot of the film and said, this doesn't look like Kitana, I'm going to make it look like Kitana and superimpose a mask from one of the games over her. It looks awful. It looks fine in the shots where it's a real mask, but in the CG here, it just looks terrible. So it seems that she's going to encounter Johnny, throw one fan, Johnny will react, then she'll put the mask on, and then during the fight, she'll get her fan back and then do this weird kick stunt. So she's going to be launching these fans quite a few times. It's a really choppily edited together sequence, and it's mostly stuff we've seen already. So again, I don't envy the people making these trailers, because don't show off too much, but also try and stretch this shit out so we can get a third trailer with what really should have just been a 2-trailer marketing campaign. Warner Bros. Really screwed over a lot of the people working on various aspects of the marketing for this film. Maybe the Netflix buyout won't be such a bad thing after all. So then after she puts the mask on, she fights him and she kicks him, and it's very unconvincing. But then the trailer does a little sneaky editing. It's like when a character makes a joke in a trailer, then another character laughs, and that doesn't happen in the actual film. They're just edited in such a way where they're trying to tie these things together to create a narrative that's not there. And this is Johnny saying, oh, send me home. As if he's just been fighting Kitana. No, clearly he's just seeing Jax and Liu Kang and Cole and what they're doing. Maybe he sees the portal and he's like, no, send me home. This is clearly an Earthrealm. He's not gone to the tournament yet. We know this from watching the other trailer. When you can't show too much of the narrative, just make it up. Honestly, this just looks like Hogsmeade from Harry Potter. You got the castle in the background, it's just this little town near there, and everything's dark. It doesn't look like an alien landscape. It just looks like a medieval village, and it's kind of lame. I feel like these films have really failed when it comes to making Outworld feel like an alien realm. We've fallen going to Outworld, and it's just boring. At least we have the Colosseum in Battle of the Realms. They just lifted an environment from MK9. That's Outworld. Here, ugh. So if this does suggest a 5v5 setup, it's possible the tournament is literally just best 3 out of 5 rather than you win, you have to have another fight. Because from the fights we've seen, there isn't much of a proper tournament structure. It's just this character fights this character. We might see them fight someone else, but if they do, it's usually someone who might not even be in the tournament or is kind of just at the end of the tournament. We don't really see this is round 1, this is round 2, which is probably for the best. That was one of the big problems that Battle of the Realms had when it did this tournament. They had to do a montage at one point because there just wasn't enough time for all these fights. The action really failed in that movie. Whereas with this one, it's a lot easier if you just have 7, 8 fights, something like that. 5 tournament bouts, and then the final fight with Shao, and then a couple others here or there. Given a bit of time to properly think about it, I reckon I could work out all 5 outcomes, similar to when I did that video for M1K, where I went through the story mode trailers and went, well, here's all the fights we're going to get. And I got quite a lot of stuff right with that. So if you're interested, let me know. So here's Jared in his full regalia, and you got Sindel and Kitana behind him. You can't probably see Kitana, but she is there. It's going to be neat to see Jared fight. I mean, I'm sure he won't have any notable special moves. He probably is going to be dude with sword, because he never really had a defined ability set other than when he's part of Ermac. We don't really see Jared fight in many versions of the setting. Usually he'll just appear in a flashback. I think the only time we ever got an idea that Jared was actually a capable fighter was in the Malibu comics. And even then, we didn't get to see much of the fighting. He just beat a few dudes and got blindsided by Shang Tsung. Similar to Deadly Alliance, actually. So then we have Kung Lao, and he's about to fight Liu Kang, and all we're really getting for the Revenants, it seems, is just these veins. I don't think his eyes are actually any darker. I think it's just the lighting. So they went for very minimal I wish they'd done a bit more with it. In MK11, where they did the Revenants, even if you remove the grey skin, the aesthetic of the Revenants is still very clear and distinct from the human versions. So when you look at Revenant Kung Lao and Human Kung Lao, you can tell which is which easily, because the outfit styles are very different. But Kung Lao already wore armour in the last film. It's not like the contrast between Revenant armour and the style of dress he has in MK2 or Shaolin Monks. It's very similar anyway, it's just that this is going to be a bit sharper, a bit edgier. Maybe there's an intentional decision with it, like they wanted to not cover up the performance, or maybe just look too goofy when they were trying ideas out. It'll be interesting to see if they release any like concept art for what Kung Lao was supposed to look like. Behind the scenes stuff will be really interesting to see, just kind of figure out what the headspace was. Maybe there'll be an explanation in the director's commentary on the Blu-ray. I'm sure Sonic RXD will find that and put it in his Mortal Kombat 2 sucks video, because it probably will be sucks. Fingers crossed it's a not sucks, but who knows. And then a detail I've observed before, that Liu Kang fighting Kung Lao here, he's wearing red. He's seen wearing red in the training part at the start of the film, which would be his introduction to the film. But when we see him in Outworld, when he's fighting Shao, or with Johnny when he's fighting Baraka, he's in the white outfit from the first film. So presumably this is going to be super early in the tournament, or maybe not even in the tournament at all. Or maybe it's a tournament fight before they leave or something. Hopefully it's not just like a stupid dream sequence or a vision. Hopefully this is like a proper fight. I believe the poster they used to announce the delay had Kung Lao's hat, which suggests he's going to be quite important to the film. It'd be really weird if he wasn't important to the film. And it'd also be weird if Liu Kang swapped back and forth between the two outfits, just like it's weird that he's not wearing the bandana. The last film put this emphasis on the fact that the bandana comes from Kung Lao's hat. Kung Lao dies, Liu Kang, all he's got left is his hat, takes the bandana off, puts it on, and then he has a fight. He dedicates his victory to Kung Lao. Where is the bandana in this film? We don't see it anywhere, I'm pretty sure. You would expect them to have him wear it for this fight, if nothing else. Even if he don't wear it anywhere else, he pulls it out of his pocket and puts it on. Or maybe when he defeats Kung Lao, he gives it back to him, or he goes to him, Kung Lao, it's like, no, you keep it. It's a weird thing to set up and then do absolutely nothing with, seemingly. Hopefully he's not just giving it to Cole Young, who will then die. Maybe that's why it's not here, because the guy who's carrying it has no screen time in these trailers. The outfit is a neat blend of the Revenant outfit from MK11 and, the pants seem more in line with what he wore in the previous film. I'm glad he's not bald. That was nice of them to not force him to shave his head. I wouldn't mind having this in the next game, although I think I would prefer to have the one from the first film. That's this Kung Lao's actual personality, his personal outfits. This is just the evil one. Having both would be neat, but we'll never get both. We'd be lucky to get the one. Then here's a neat bit where they're cutting quickly, but it is clearly meant to be one shot as the forest around them breaks down. Clearly this is hell or purgatory. I don't think it's going to be Scorpion warping them from the Netherrealm. I think it's going to be some kind of illusion or something, and they are in the Netherrealm. After he went back there in the first film, he just never left there. Learned English from someone while he was down there. Hell yeah, brother. Don't know what else to make of it, but it's a pretty neat effect. It's kind of like the Otherworld transition in the Silent Hill movie. Odd thing to compare it to, but there it is. So then we have Scorpion fighting Noob and Cybot. You get a better view later on that Cybot's outfit is colour corrected a bit to make the purple pop a bit, which I imagine for the same reason that Scorpion's gold here is really popping in a way that feels completely unnatural and not all that aesthetically pleasing, very similar to Superman's suit specifically in Joss Whedon's version of Justice League. It looks wrong, but I think what happened is they filmed the scene with this particular lighting in mind, the Netherrealm stuff, and they realised while they were editing that it's hard to tell which of these like masked ninja guys is who in certain shots, particularly in wide shots. Like, how much of Hanzo's skin can you really see? We can't tell who's who sometimes. So we'll make this guy's yellow pop, this guy's purple pop, and this guy's just going to be silver. Hopefully the audience will be able to understand who is who during any given moment, because when you lose track of who's who in a fight scene, that's catastrophic. You really don't want that to happen. But it's weird that they didn't go do this with all the armor, because like this part is just very natural looking. It's very strange, and I don't think it's intentionally supposed to be, oh, well, he's a spectre, he's undead, this is hell, things just look weird. I think it is just a case of this was all they could do in post to make the fight clearer because of the way everything was planned out and staged and shot. Once again, I don't envy the people working on this movie, because clearly weird decisions were made, particularly with the first film, that then carried over, and now they have to live with them. Sorry, guys. Then Jade comes in with her green staff. I know a lot of fans would prefer it to be purple, like in the older games, as opposed to green, like it is in MK11. But I can imagine why they did it this way. Look how dark this scene is. Clearly they wanted Jade to be lit by her staff, and they wanted it to be a contrast with the reds and the blues and whatnot. Green will stand out a bit more compared to purple, but also you don't want Jade to be bathed in purple. We remember from MK11, when Jade isn't green, it's dumb and wrong and we don't like it. So Jade should always be green, so the staff lighting her up this way makes sense. So I hope I don't see people on Twitter complaining about the staff colour. I don't think anyone did when we first saw it. This might spark something this time, but hopefully people will see this shot and go, oh, I understand why they did it. I don't think they will. I think they'll see 2 frames of Jade with a green staff and go, I don't like it. Then we get this hilarious bit that makes me worry that Jax might just be a jobber now. He goes to smash Jade's staff, and then it's like a Black Panther kinetic energy absorption thing. I think he's just realised, like, oh no, this is not working. So this might be one of the fights where Earthrealm loses. I don't think any of the heroes are necessarily going to die other than maybe Cole. We did get that shot where Jax seems to get teleported out in the previous trailer. I think that's where it's going to be, that the losers get teleported or something. But you can kill the person if you want to. Or Shao will, of course, be like, finish him! You do that. Then we get the part where Jared is stabbed by Shao Kahn. This here is a good example of the things you can notice in editing, where you have to be really careful when you go from one shot to another. He's on his knees, because we saw the previous shot, and then suddenly he's in the air. The actual film won't do that. The actual film will have probably an extended shot of him being lifted into the air, Shao maybe making a big taunt, and then he brings him down like that, right? When you go from one to the other, it just looks wrong. He's on his knees, and then suddenly he's in the air. You know, it's like if you have a character in one shot where they've got a hat, even if you cut away and then cut back and the character's no longer wearing the hat, people are like, no, he was wearing a hat. Like, even if you can understand that there's supposed to be a little bit of time where the hat came off, if you don't see the character start to take it off or finish taking it off or holding it or something, it can really mess with you and distract you from what's going on. It is just this weird thing about the way the human mind works. So I'm sure this isn't how it will be in the actual film. It's just done this way for pacing reasons. Unfortunately, they have not fixed the muffled aspect of the so you can still barely hear him in this part. They've still got a few months to fix it. Hopefully people will say in regards to this trailer, dudes, fix his voice. We can't understand what he's saying. It's like Bane in The Dark Knight Rises when they did the initial test screenings. People didn't know what he was saying, so they had to redo it. Please, redo it. Fortunately, they didn't spoil any deaths in this, like I feared they would. Maybe the next trailer will do that, but for this one, fortunately, no. But we do get a little showcase here, some of the fights, the Liu Kang versus Kung Lao. It looks like it's going to be, as long as the choreography and the shot composition don't suck ass, and the editing, of course. You don't want to have quick cuts all the time like in the previous film. As long as that's at least competent, this should be a good-looking scene. I mean, look at this. This environment looks gorgeous. The fire to contrast it. I mean, maybe this is why he's wearing red in this scene, because if he was wearing white, the blue light around him might just make his outfit look blue, whereas the red really pops, just like the fire. Hell, maybe that's why Kung Lao isn't grey skinned, because maybe that would likewise absorb the blue too much. This is one of the fights I really hope they will nail in terms of the storytelling and the choreography and the editing, because this is going to be one of the more important scenes in the movie, one of the more important fights at least. Presumably, as long as it's not just like a stupid dream, this has all the hallmarks of a very important fight, because it's Liu Kang versus his presumably corrupted friend. And hopefully Kung Lao gets to do some cool stuff, because he was one of the best parts of the previous film. Him, Sub-Zero and Kano pretty much universally agreed to be the highlights of that film, and so hopefully that can continue here, although Johnny does need to obviously stand out as well. Now this shot is interesting. So we've got Quan Chi in the background with his robe, which confirms, seemingly, that the resurrection scene earlier, or whatever that was, is him resurrecting Sindel. But here he is resurrecting Kano, and Jade and Katana are clearly concerned about this. They find this abhorrent, seemingly. Jade's getting ready to grab her weapon and just kill Kano. So is Kano going to be working for the bad guys? Like, clearly this is the first we're going to see of Kano, because he's still missing his eye. Whereas when we see him elsewhere in the trailers, he's got both eyes again. There's something off about Quan Chi. I couldn't figure it out before. I figured it out now. Why Quan Chi looks so off? He reminds me of Piccolo from Dragon Ball Evolution. Look at his face. Here you can see a little bit of the purplish tint they gave to Cybot to make him stand out from Noob. Even though they're going off MK11 designs, the two still look really good. It's weird how these films, the character designs are not that great, but what they take from MK11 tends to translate quite well. How? Then with this bit, which indicates that Katana is going to betray Shao at some point, likely in relation to Sindel being mind controlled or whatever. Oh, it's weird that she doesn't have her own throne. She's basically in the cup chair. It's really weird. Jade here suggests either she's going to capture Katana and then have a change of heart later, or she brings Kitana in, it's all part of a ploy or something to get close to Kahn. Because we know Kitana's going to fight Shao, but we just don't know what order the events will be. I'm sure we'll know exactly what order it is by the end of the third trailer. And unfortunately, Shao Kahn's design is one of the weaker points for this film. You know, we've seen it quite clearly in MK1, the game. I can't believe I called it MK1. I can understand removing the spikes to make it more practical for a fight scene, but then the draconic element to compensate for that, I don't think that they've ever worked on the character. It just looks bad. I guess they just figured they needed something to make him look like an intimidating, like, big muscle guy, but more than just like a guy with muscles. He has to be like a monster. Sometimes simple is better, you know? We're not seeing much of Sindel in these trailers, so it's not clear how big a role she'll have, if she'll even matter all that much at all. Although it is really funny to think that if we do have 5v5, 3 out of the 5 Outworld competitors are going to be from Edenia, and one of them might be from Earthrealm. If you're at all familiar with the invasion angle from the WWE back in the day, where the final battle was like, oh, here's the alliance of ECW and WCW. 3 of the guys were from the WWF. Only 2 of them were from ECW and WCW. It's like, wow, what a fucking waste of time. So then after Kitana rallies the people, which, you know, presumably will lead to a big thing in the end, maybe this leads to her capture, maybe not. Hope it's not just she fights Johnny and then Johnny's like, you should betray Shao Kahn. She's like, you know what? Yes. We then get Shang Tsung in some normal clothes. It's a nice outfit. And he is, you know, I don't know why. I didn't realise this before. It did look kind of familiar what was going on. He's not sucking Raiden's soul. That's an amulet. Maybe Shinnok's amulet given by Quan Chi. You can't probably see it, but maybe I'm just seeing things, but I think you can just about see the line work of Quan Chi's of Shinnok's amulet, sorry. But yeah, he's basically doing what Raiden does in MKX to Shinnok. That's an interesting development. I didn't notice that the first time. I'm glad I went back and did this video now. But yeah, these two are having a fight. We see at another point, these two are having a proper fight. So that's one of the tournament fights, which is interesting that Raiden is going to be just in the tournament after the previous film where he could have just interfered whenever he wanted and just chose not to. And this bit, what we saw in the previous one, where Jade just appears in what appears to be the Netherrealm, we do actually have some context for it now. So as I said, here's Liu Kang in the white outfit when he's fighting Shao Kahn, and then we immediately cut to back at the temple where he's wearing red. This appears to be a thing. We have Liu Kang and Sonya fighting Shao Kahn, which is presumably not part of the tournament, but it raises the question of what the circumstances are that will lead to this fight. We know Liu Kang's going to fight Shao Kahn on his own in a bit, presumably after this Sonya is bested. We don't see much of Sonya, which is kind of odd, because we know that Johnny and Kano are going to have their little mission in the Netherrealm. So how the characters are going to get divided, what is the plot? Could Earthrealm possibly lose? I don't know, but this doesn't seem to be a tournament fight. Although there are people there, just people watching, so it could end up just being a tournament fight where he's fighting both of them. I can't imagine why. I mean, maybe it's, Earthrealm's victors, well, they all get to fight Shao at once. Then we see more of the Kitana and Jade fight. The one time we get to see Cole in this entire trailer, which really does imply that Cole is going to die really early, or that this is an incredible bait and switch, and that they just want us to think he's going to die early. Then we'll be relieved when we see the film and, he survived. I can't believe Cole Young lived. Or alternatively, more likely, people go, fuck! I was hoping he would die so we could move on. Then we see this part where Scorpion is fighting Noob while Cybot is fighting the other two guys, which once again suggests that the real villain is being fought by Scorpion while our hero is saddled with effectively B-plot shit. Guys, like, I get it, Scorpion's cool, but he's irrelevant at this point. Scorpion's arc is done. Scorpion shouldn't even be in this film, quite frankly. Get a cameo at best, but like, here's Noob Saibot, a big threat, and unless the Noob stuff is completely inconsequential. Could you imagine? All this focus, all this build-up, and it just amounts to not much. And it's going to look really bad in a second. So for this bit, I think they're trying to do a bit of trailer trickery, but it doesn't quite work out if that was what they were going for. So Sonya throws her rings, obviously, at Sindel. You can still tell it's the pit bottom area. But then here's Kano, and he fires his laser. But then that's not Sonya, that's Jade. And they're firing at what appears to be Cybot. Presumably they're not just going to fight Noob, that'd be weird. And Johnny's just here in the fucking Family Guy death pose. Like, really? Our main guy's going to get taken out by Cybot? while he's fighting alongside someone else, and then Jade has to jump in. That's presumably what her coming in is. Which makes me wonder, is Jade going to die in this film and then show up in the Netherrealm a bit later? It's like, oh, she's dead. But where does she end up? In the afterlife, so she can show up and help the good guys? Probably not, but it depends on how freely one can access the Netherrealm in this setting. In the games, it tends to be, if you can open a portal, you can do that, but we don't know for the films. It seems like Johnny's not fighting Shao Kahn. He's not going to fight Noob. He's going to fight Cybot and then lose. And so it gives this weird trajectory for Johnny's character, even though he's supposed to be the main character. Now, again, this could be some really weird avant-garde marketing where they're trying to make you think Johnny's the main character and he's not, and neither is Cole, or maybe Cole is. Ooh, maybe Cole's going to fight Shinnok and that's the real threat. But it's just really weird. I can't figure out what Johnny's story is going to be here, other than maybe accepting that he's not the hero, but then what will be the point of him being washed up? Because that's not the kind of arc he needs right now. I don't know. This trailer's strange. I don't know where this film's going. Then we get that shot of Katana fighting Shao Kahn again in front of all those people. Clearly she's having a rough time based on her current state, but he's just going to win. And then this appears to be Liu Kang stepping forward to fight her. Based on the state of his fingers, he may have gotten a power-up. Maybe Sonya comes in, or maybe... Ain't no way. There's no way Liu Kang is going to be fighting alongside Sonya. He gets knocked out, and then Sonya's against Shao on her own, and then Liu Kang has a dream sequence where he encounters Kung Lao, he learns a lesson and gets a power-up. Is Liu Kang secretly the hero of this film? Is that what's going on? Yes, it'd be good for him to be the main character, but like I said before, he's not really earned that place. He's not got that relevance here. He's been firmly a side character in the previous film, at least with Scorpion's Revenge when he didn't defeat Goro. At least there he was set up as like the main guy of the Earth Forces. It's like he was the main guy of the B-plot. So it wasn't like a huge jump when he was the main character in the next one, but this, while it might be better for MK fans, I feel like these two films are going to have a serious lack of cohesion between the two, as far as an overarching, arc. Then we see Raiden do the torpedo to Shang Tsung, and Kung Lao with his Revenant-based outfit. He looks cool. I just wish they did more. And then you get this funny little bit where it's like, wow, they're not even trying. They're just using shots from the trailer that exists within the movie. And that is incredibly lame. However, I'll take it over a big spoiler. Yeah, again, I don't envy the people making these trailers. That they're trying their hardest to not spoil the movie, but there's not a lot they can do if they're not going to spoil it. Then we get Scorpion breathing fire again. They've not done the skull effects, which maybe because it's just his soul is in the Netherrealm, so it works differently. I'm hoping it's not going to end the same way as the last fight where he burns Bihan to death. Hopefully it's going to be he'll try that as the first move. So it worked last time, I'll do it now. And Bihan's like, why do you think I'm black? I'm sure he won't use those exact words because it wouldn't go over well, but I'm sure that's what they're going for. He's going to go for that right away, and it's not going to work. Then he has to fight for real. Then we get another shot of Baraka, and he's just hideous. I don't like how he looks. This is one of the things that I think people really hope they would fix, but the mouth is just way too big, and it just looks weird. And then it's have this really unhype closing bit where it's just Johnny dodging Baraka's spikes after Liu Kang says Johnny's absolutely going to die, which is just not that satisfying. Although we do at least get a clear shot here, which I don't think we did in the previous trailers. Those are all Tarkatans. It's just the Tarkatan colony. And there's a bunch of them in the background. They just kind of look like dudes. It feels kind of weird. Are they going to bring back that original plan for MK2 where all Outworlders are actually Tarkatans? That was because that was what Shao Kahn was going to be originally. Because that was going to be everyone from Outworld, but they changed their minds. I think it was to make Baraka more unique specifically. It's not a particularly hyped trailer, unfortunately. But again, what else can they do? They're stuck between a rock and hard place, these editors. The film should have been out a few months ago, and now they have to make this filler trailer in between the two big ones and try not to give away too much so the last one can be the big hype one. You might say, well, why make the trailer at all? Well, they have to keep the hype going somehow. This whole thing was a massive mistake, this delay. The only thing that makes sense for why they would even do this delay is ignore all the official explanations. It was purely to somehow factor into a buyout. Oh, we've got this big movie coming out, this big tentpole film, a big popular franchise. The last one made quite a lot of money. That's coming out. Make them a bit more. Make the buyers more interested as opposed to, well, we already brought the film out and risk it. Damaging the WB brand by having the film come out and not perform that well. Right now, it's Schrodinger's performance. We don't know how well it's going to do. Hopefully, the film will be good. The trailer hasn't really done anything to change my perspective on the film, other than making me a bit more confused as to who the actual main character is, because unless it's a weird twist, it's not Cole. It seems like it's going to be Liu Kang, even though everything's setting up Johnny to be the hero. Or is Johnny just going to be the chronicler? Is it going to be seeing Liu Kang's heroism will inspire him somehow? I would not be surprised if Johnny goes back home and makes a Mortal Kombat movie, and then maybe we get a trailer for that movie on the Blu-ray. Probably sit in the vein of the Fight Dirty trailer for MK9, which just used a bunch of clips from the story mode. Not bespoke footage, just existing footage, and they're like, well, here's a few original shots of Johnny, him in a different outfit or something. It's like, well, this is stuff done for the film. I think that could be fun. You know, I feel like the adaptations don't mess around with Johnny being a film star nearly enough. And I applaud what they've done so far, you know, making the trailer and the posters and whatnot. Even if it is necessary to be put in the film, it's cool that they did that, you know? But yeah, so I've recorded about as much as last time. Hopefully this will be a bit more clear in what I'm going for and less rambly. I don't think that is the case though. I may have made it worse. Oh, here are the patrons. I don't normally put patrons on unscripted videos, but I really should be doing that, so I'm going to be doing that. This is really just a note for my editing self. Put the patrons on here, shill some videos, and yeah, that's that.